right, welcome back. So, basically, the purpose of this class is to teach you on VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, and HLOOKUP. Meanwhile, um, I'll be just be running up with this conditional sum, and it's very simple. That's why I should walk through it. So, for example, this is the sum if. So, some values that meet a specific condition. So, for sum if, we have, for example, if you want to know the region that has the for example, this is I mean the sales of a particular region. We want to know the sales of a particular region. So, for example, we want to know the sales of West. We're going to do sum if, then the range, that's the region, A2 to A5, comma, what is the criteria? What are we looking for? The West. But we're going to like quote it, and it must be the same spelling of what we have here, right? They will now do B2 to B5 to that's what we are going to return back, right? So don't forget sum if, the range, the criteria, and the sum range. So sum range is what we want to return. So range column checks the condition, column to check the condition against, criteria what to look for, e.g. West. Sum range. So just try that out. So the count if to, right? So count cells that match a specific condition. So the count if is just range and criteria. So if we highlight all this region like this now, so from A2 to A6, how many west do we have? So we're going to count if A2 to A6, comma, west. So we're going to quote it to the same spelling of the west we have here. Our present is going to count only west. Same thing for this status too. If we want to count the completed status, we also do that. If we want to count the pending, we do that. So, and one major thing about this kind of formula is actually useful for if you are creating dashboards, KPI counts, and the likes. Right. So, just you can try that too. Um, So some ifs, one thing about the ifs is for multiple criteria. So um for some ifs, the first thing we are dealing with is our sum range, then criteria range one, criteria one, criteria range two, criteria two. So what is the sum range? The sum range is these fields that we are dealing with, that's C2 to C6 is the sum range. So A2 to A6. So we want to know west, shey get the region for a particular month. That means January, but it should still be in the west region. Are we together now? So January, but it should still be in the west region. So that we'll first be doing the sum range, which is C2 to C6, then January for a particular region. So that's why we did A2 to A6, A2 to A6 west, right? B2 to B6 January. So when you close the bracket, so it will sum region that is west and month that is January. So if you fulfill these two conditions, you want to know the region that is west and the month that is January, but the sales for that particular. So sum is for multiple condition sum. So count if too is going to work the same way, just the same way the sum. But sum is adding the value, count is counting. So for example, this one too, we're going to do the sum range. So but for this is different now. For count if is count row matching multiple condition at a time. So count if is criteria range one, criteria range two, criteria two. So count ifs A2 to A6, right, west, B2 to B6 completed. So we want to know the region that is actually like um completed. We did the same thing for pending. So but it's just, this one is just for count. So we have two transactions completed, right? Two transactions completed from the west. That means we have two completed transactions from the west, right? That's what this one is saying. And this one transaction pending from the west. That's what this one is also saying. That's A2 to A6 west, B to B6 pending. So it's different from this one. For this one, for these some if you need to know, for some it's different is that this one we are dealing with sales. We want to know the total, sales for these conditions. That's why we add the sum range. But for the count ifs, we don't need to know, it's still for multiple condition, but this one we don't need to know the amount. We're not dealing with the amount. You just want to know how many completed, the count of it, how many completed, and the one that is not what also completed. Normally you will say that why is it working for letter? The count, there's no count that it's for multiple. So count ifs work for both count and counter. Are we together on that now? So that's also very important. You need to try that. So now I hope you understand these sum ifs, and also um even the sum if, right? And don't forget the range criteria and the sum range. So this is just like you recap A2 to A5. Yeah, we want to know west. So we're trying to quote it that west to in this A2 to A5, we are dealing with the west. But we want to make sure that the west sales. That's why the sum range is B2 to B5. When we did the count if, right, is range and criteria. That's why I see that the count if two. We're just dealing with criteria one, criteria range. That's range and criteria, but it's just multiple. So that we're dealing with west, right? So A2 to A6 west, B2 to B6 completed, right? So we want to know the completed region of the west. I'll do the same thing for east, do the same thing for north. Try that. And for this sum range, sum range, we need to start with the sum range because we want to know the sales amount, right? So A2 to A6 west, B2 to B6 January, right? And so we just did that to actually get the west January month, right? Plus January, West plus January total, right? So, and this I explained counties already. So what I want to really explain today is VLOOKUP, right? So we'll just talk about VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, and HLOOKUP. Basically, and index match, right? So now VLOOKUP means vertical lookup, right? Vertical lookup. HLOOKUP means horizontal lookup. And XLOOKUP is the combination of both vertical and horizontal lookup. If you look at this data set, we have employee ID, name, department, job role, salary, location. If you look at this employee ID, you can see the name, you can see the department, you can see the job role, you can see the salary, you can see the location. So what the XLOOKUP does is that the XLOOKUP searches vertically in the first column of table and return a value from another column in the same row. So that's what the XLOOKUP does. So for example, we want to find the salary of employee 004. So what is the salary? This employee 004 now, what is the salary? So we want to do that automatically, right? So we're going to use the I know we're dealing with the total salary, right? The salary of employee 004. So that's 1. So how do we do that? XLOOKUP actually has lookup value, table array, column index number, and range lookup. You can see this is making it very simple now. So what is the lookup value? The lookup value is the value to search, right? The lookup value is the value to search. What are we looking for? We are looking for the employee number, right? That's employee 004. And that's why in the lookup value, we are going to be putting the employee number, right? Comma, what is the table array? Table array is that we need to highlight all the old table. That's all the old table that we're using the data, right? You can see this are we're not dealing with the headers, right? So we're just dealing with the table that has the data. And that's why I see that we're highlighting the table array. The next one, what is the column index number? The column index number is the column that we want to return the value. Don't forget they said employee salary. So that's the salary column. That's the fifth column. So you're not going to use the word salary, you're going to use the word five. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth column, that is salary. So after that, what do we have again? And and comma, that's what? The range lookup. You can just use what? That's false. So you presenter, that's 4 1. Shey you get? So just follow that step. And X lookup, right? So before I go to X lookup, let me explain H lookup to you using this data that I have here. So H lookup means horizontal lookup. H lookup searches horizontally across the top row and returns a value. For example, find the match sales for laptop. We want to the match sales, but for laptop, the match. You can see this is horizontal. Now what we're looking for is in horizontal. We're looking for, don't forget, this is horizontal, this is vertical. Horizontal are rows, verticals are columns. So each lookups deal with the H stands for horizontal lookup, right? So we're looking for match, but laptop that is in what? Match, right? The match sales for laptop, right? So how do we do that? We have to use the H lookup. So what does the H lookup does? Lookup value. What is the lookup value? We have to quote that as match, comma, what is the table array? The table array is what? We highlight all the whole table, right? Because now we are looking for match. Match is part of the table now. And what is the row? Row index number. That's, what we want to return value from this row too, right? Because that's where the laptop is. We want to return value from this row too, because that's where the laptop is. And false. Why isn't false? Why? Because of so that you just use false, so that I'll still explain that in my next videos, but just use false like that, because someone asks why am I not using true, use false like that. So enter. So you now get 12,800. You can see, but one limitations of these lookups is that, for example, if there's another um print a laptop here, do you think it will add the values up? No. So it's just for a single stuff like this, not when there's a duplicate of the product. Are we together now? So now go back. X lookup. X lookup might not work on X lookup has limitations to Excel models, right? It works on Excel 2021 above and Google Sheets, right? So X lookup is the modern replacement for VLOOKUP and H lookup. So instead of using V and H, you can just use X, right? So find the department of employee 009. Now, employee 009, we want to know the department, right? So what is the department of? So we're talking about we're talking about department, and we're talking about job role, right? So what is the formula? So we're going to do X lookup. First thing is the lookup value. And what is the lookup value? Employee 009, right? What is the table array? Table array what we're looking for is from, that this is just very simple. Employee 009 under where? Under this table. So the next thing is the table. And then what are we now looking for next? The job role. Shey you get? So the X lookup is simple. If we're actually looking for the employee ID for the job role, then we'll first start with data analyst. We'll quote it. Then we'll now say that what um D2 to D11. Then we'll now do comma. We'll now do A22. Do you get the idea now? But this one now we're looking for the job role. but for the employee um ID, right? So we're going to do the employee ID. That's the nine. What is the array A2 to A11, comma, what are we looking for based on this table array which we have mentioned? This is employee 009. We are looking for D2 to what? D11, right? So it's automatically going to look for it, and then we have data scientist. That's the department of employee 009. You can see data scientist. Data scientist. So the last thing we'll be talking about is the index plus match. Index plus match. So what index plus match does is that index return a value from a range, while match find the position of a value. Together they create a powerful lookup combination. Find the salary of employee 006. You know, we actually use um the X lookup for these two, but let us use index and match. Salary for employee 006. So what are we going to do? Match find the position of employee 006, index return value. So match will go and what? Find. So we are doing E2 to what? E11. What's E2 to E11? That's the salary. And if we look at index and match, come here. Okay. If you look at index plus match, what do you observe? Array, right? Row number, column number. So you can say that this is the index, and don't forget what index does. Index find positions. So index E2 to E11, that's the salary column, right? So and match employee. So I'm matching this employee number to this A11. That's where the employee ID is, right? So we're matching it, and the match type. We don't have a match type, so put 0 and close the bracket there to give you the salary. Right, don't forget match finds the position. So that way I can see that match, we are looking for the position, while index returns the value. And that's why the index, we have to we this is the salary column, right? So don't forget index returns the value, while match finds position. See, this thing is that you just need to, and that's why you don't need to see. I beg you, watch this video as slowly you can, jot and understand, try it over and over again so it can sink. Match finds the finds position, while index returns value, and that's why we are using index and comma we are using match. So index, we are highlighting the salary, right? While match now, don't forget index what? Index finds position, why sorry match finds position, why, right? While index what? Returns value. So you can see that we have, this is to return the value of salary. Now I want to go and find the position match, find this employee under this table array and this column array, right? And just write comma 0, right? So practice all over and over again. Trust me, you are going to get it. And in case you are just stumbling on this video, go back to the previous video where I started the introduction to Microsoft Office. Watch slowly, sink it in, understand, and trust me, you get a perfect understanding. Thank you.